Before Damon Reed pushed me off the cliff, he whispered something that shattered the last illusion I had. "Every comment you ever saw," he sneered, standing over my bleeding body, "I wrote them. All of them. For you. So you'd fall right into my hands." I couldn't move. I couldn't even scream. My limbs were broken, my lungs filling with blood. But my mind. That was the part that hurt the most. "Stupid, gullible Sierra," he laughed, heel pressed to my chest. "You thought those floating comments were fate? They were my script. And you? Just a puppet." Then he kicked me. Hard. And the world went dark. I came back gasping. Not in some afterlife or dream. But right back to that night. The night it all began. The Langford Foundation's annual gala. Glittering chandeliers. Laughter. Champagne flutes balanced on white-gloved hands. Everything pristine, on the surface. I was standing at the edge of the grand ballroom, a crystal glass of champagne in my hand. No blood. No broken bones. No cliff. Just violins, laughter, and the comments. God help me. They were floating again. "Girl, don't go looking for your fiancé. That cheater is upstairs with a model. Why not look behind you? Damon may be a waiter now, but he's your future. He'll spoil you senseless. You're the heroine of his story." I turned. There he was. Damon Reed. Just a waiter here. White dress shirt, black vest, eyes like charcoal ink. But I knew the monster beneath. In my past life I turned to him. I believed he was fate, the right choice, the real love. Because of these comments. Because of him. I turned right back around. The heat hit me suddenly, like fire under my skin. My knees buckled slightly, hand clutching the wall for support. The drug. It was happening all over again. Your body is reacting. It's not the drink. It's destiny. He's the only one who'll ever understand you. Let him take care of you. Don't resist fate. I gritted my teeth. In my last life I'd believed these glowing whispers like gospel. I'd thought they were some magical manifestation of the universe guiding me. They weren't. They were weaponized. He made me give up Julian, my fiancé. He made me believe I was living some grand romance. Then he emptied my family's fortune and tossed my body off a cliff. Not this time. "Miss Langford," a soft voice came beside my ear. I turned slowly. Damon stood there. Too close. Face filled with false concern, as if he hadn't murdered me a lifetime ago. "You don't look so well," he said gently. "Let me help you to a quiet room somewhere you can rest." His hand reached for my elbow. I stepped back. "Don't fight him. This is your story. This is love. Damon is the one who's meant for you. He's the future richest man. And he'll never hurt you." My fingers twitched. God, I wanted to scream. To lash out. But I couldn't, not yet. Damon leaned in, lowering his voice. "You're really warm, Sierra. Are you feeling dizzy? Let me help you." His breath brushed my ear like a whisper from the devil. I could feel his fingers hovering near my collarbone, teasing toward the neckline of my gown. My breath caught. My heart slammed. And still the comments raged. "Girl, this is it. He's already in love with you. Give in to your feelings." I dug my nails into my palm, hard. And then, I reached up, yanked the silver hairpin from my updo and stabbed it straight into Damon's arm. He let out a guttural scream, stumbling back. The entire tray he was carrying clattered to the marble floor, drawing gasps. I didn't wait. I sprinted toward the center of the hall, lungs burning, voice shaking but clear. "Call the police. Someone tried to assault me." Guards were on him in seconds. Damon writhed, screaming in shock and pain, still gripping his bleeding arm. But the comments didn't stop. "She's ruining her own future. That's the man who'll rule the country one day. Poor guy. She misunderstood his kindness." I turned to face him one last time. His eyes had changed. No longer soft, no longer affectionate. Just wild, panicked, and calculating. "I didn't do anything," he said to the crowd. "She was unwell. I was just helping her." His voice carried that perfect balance of confusion and hurt. "He's too handsome to need to force anyone. She's being dramatic. This is a witch hunt. Poor Damon." Every line twisted reality. Every line designed to break me down. But not this time. I crossed my arms and spoke coldly. "You can save the performance for the police, Damon. I've heard it all before." The sirens were getting closer now. Flashing lights just outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Then came the last surprise. Wait. A woman in a white dress pushed through the crowd. Her heels echoed sharply on the tile as she made her way to the center. Ava Monroe. Of course. His sponsor. The one who'd pulled him out of poverty, paid his tuition, arranged his internships. The woman who, in my past life, mysteriously died in a car crash not long after Damon and I got together. Ava rushed to his side, eyes blazing. You can't take him. He's innocent. Sierra, what are you doing? I stared at her, young, rich, and stupid. The same way I once was. You're defending someone you barely know, I said softly. I do know him, she snapped. He would never do something like this. Damon is kind. He helped me when no one else did. You're wrong about him. God, she sounded like me. But I wasn't about to argue. Instead, I held up my phone and tapped play. A shaky video taken from the hallway security footage played on screen. Damon's hands on me. My slurred protests. His voice coaxing me. Ava's expression cracked. She flinched but still turned to the officers. It could be a misunderstanding, he didn't mean harm. Tell it to the judge, I said. The officers dragged Damon away. He was screaming now, fighting against the cuffs. This is all a mistake. He did it because he loved you. The heroine is being too cruel. Even now the comments tried to rewrite the story. My story. I took one last breath and looked up at the glittering chandelier. In my past life I believed every single lie. I followed those comments into a grave. This time, I was going to follow them straight to their source. Let Damon think he was winning. Let the comments paint him as the male lead. Let the audience cheer. Because the story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. And this time, I was the one holding the pen. The ballroom buzzed behind me. Murmurs, camera flashes, whispers rippling like wind through silk. Damon had been dragged out in handcuffs. Ava followed, devastated and clinging to a fantasy I'd already buried. But the floating comments hadn't stopped. You'll regret this. Damon only loved you. Go upstairs. Your fiancé just finished. Room 1. I froze halfway up the staircase, hand tightening around the railing. That was the room where, in my previous life, I had walked in and seen Julian with another woman. His shirt unbuttoned, her dress half off, their limbs tangled in the mess of lust and betrayal. That image had sealed my decision to trust the comments. To trust Damon. But this time something felt off. I took a breath and continued upward. If this was the moment that had broken me once before, I was going to face it differently. I reached room 1. The hallway was quiet, eerily so. I turned the handle and pushed open the door. The smell hit first. Alcohol, expensive perfume, sweat. Clothes were scattered across the room like discarded confetti. A bra on the floor. A cufflink on the nightstand. A red dress dangling off the armchair. And there, lying on the bed, was Julian Crane. My fiancé. My perfectly groomed, Ivy League, boardroom-conquering fiancé. With a woman curled up beside him. Sleeping. Or pretending to. I took a slow step forward, my heels silent on the thick carpet. The floating comments surged. See? He's trash. Go back to Damon. You're lucky you found out now. Julian never loved you. I ignored them. Instead, I stared at Julian's face. His pupils were dilated. His lips parted slightly. His breath shallow, ragged. There was a faint sheen of sweat on his skin. His arms were wrapped around the woman like a protective reflex, not desire. But what struck me most was his fingers. Twitching. Radically. Spasming like they were trying to send an SOS. He was drugged. Just like I had been. I felt the world tilt. Not because I was shocked. No, not anymore, but because of the clarity. This wasn't betrayal. It was a setup. A perfect, grotesque performance. I stepped closer, lips pressed into a thin line. The woman stirred, her face turning slightly. I recognized her vaguely. One of those socialite models that hung around events hoping for a wealthy husband or sponsor. Julian stirred too. His eyes fluttered open, blinking against the dim light. The moment they focused on me, he froze. Sierra, he croaked. What are you doing here? Watching the show, I said coolly. He looked around, then down at the woman in his arms. His entire body jolted. No. This isn't, Sierra, I don't know how. He shoved the woman off him. She groaned but didn't resist, already half asleep. I swear, he gasped, scrambling to sit up. I don't remember anything. I don't even know who she is. Of course he didn't. That's how good Damon's timing was. You don't look so well, I observed, folding my arms. Tired? Hot? Light-headed? He looked up sharply, realization dawning. You think I was drugged? I know you were, I said. Because I was. 2 years ago. Same room. Same script. He looked at me wide-eyed, struggling to breathe evenly. I didn't touch her, Sierra. I wouldn't do that to you. I tilted my head. Maybe. But let's be honest. Would it matter if you did? His jaw clenched. You didn't believe me when I said I was drugged that night at my own birthday party. Remember? You thought I was being dramatic, I cut in. Overreacting. And yet here you are, caught in the same act. He fell silent. The girl stirred again. I gave her a sharp glance. Get dressed and leave. Now. She didn't argue. She scrambled for her clothes and disappeared out the side door, barefoot and reeking of perfume. Julian sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. Sierra, he murmured. I walked to the dresser and picked up the engagement ring box. The velvet felt heavier than it ever had. I'm ending it, I said, voice steady. His head shot up. No, wait. Sierra, this isn't what it looks like. Please. You have to believe me. I raised a brow. Believe you? The way you believed me. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I slipped the ring off my finger and placed it in his hand. You know what's funny? I said. I thought I had 2 options. A cheating fiancé or a passionate dreamer. But maybe, just maybe, there's a third. He blinked. What are you talking about? I'm talking about me, Julian. I stepped back, lips curling into something that felt foreign, but good. Power. I don't need to choose between men. I'm choosing myself. By the time I returned downstairs, my parents were in a private lounge, pacing. My father, Vincent Langford, turned the moment he saw me. Sierra, where the hell have you been? Why are there rumors about Damon Reed being arrested? Because he was, I replied simply. Tried to assault me. My mother gasped. My father froze. And Julian? He asked slowly. I looked him straight in the eye. It's over. He sank into the couch like I'd just shot him. My mother reached for me. Sweetheart. It's done, Mom, I said. And no, I'm not crying. I'm not breaking down. I'm just done. But the Crane family will survive, I said. And so will we. My father's hands curled into fists. They're offering a settlement, he muttered after a moment. 8% profit share to make this disappear. I laughed. Is that what I'm worth? 8%. No, he said firmly. You're worth more than all of them combined. He looked down, ashamed. I should have listened to you earlier. I sat beside him, my tone gentler now. Then let me prove it. He looked up. Train me, I said. To take over. Not as someone's wife. As your daughter. Your heir. His eyes searched mine. Are you serious? Dead serious, I said. Our business doesn't need a son-in-law to stay afloat. It needs someone who won't crumble when things go wrong. For a moment he was silent. Then slowly he nodded. You start Monday. My mother's hand covered her mouth, but her eyes glistened with something other than panic. Maybe even pride. I walked out of the lounge into the night air, heels echoing on stone, the sky dark above me. The floating comments returned. You'll regret this. You could have had Damon. Or Julian. Now you have no one. Are you sure you're making the right choice? I looked up at the words. They used to haunt me. Well, they were just noise. Funny, I whispered, watching them flicker. You spent a whole lifetime trying to convince me I was someone's sidekick. I smiled coldly. This time I'm the one writing the script. Langford Corp's lobby always smelled like money, polished marble, fresh-cut orchids, and ambition. The kind of place where you walk taller just to keep up with the legacy. I'd only been officially working under my father for a week, and already I'd memorized the office floor plan, read every supplier contract, and fired one executive assistant who couldn't stop gossiping. I didn't have time for slow learners. Not anymore. But as I walked toward my department that morning, my heel caught slightly on the glossy floor. Not because I stumbled, but because I saw him. Damon Reed. Wearing a sleek black suit with a Langford Corp intern badge clipped to his lapel like a sick joke. I froze mid-step. He was standing beside the reception desk, speaking politely to one of the assistants. Smiling. That same humble, hard-working grin he used to wear when he brought me water after a long banquet, or draped his coat over my shoulders, whispering, "You're all I want." For a second the scent of lies drifted into my lungs and I nearly gagged. He looked up. And our eyes locked. His expression didn't flicker. Not even for a moment. Like he was supposed to be here. Like he belonged. "Look who's back." He gave up so many better offers just to be near you again. Every day, every step he's taken, it's all been for you. The floating comments were back. Louder. Bolder. Pose. I tilted my head slightly. He blinked once, then gave a respectful nod. The kind of gesture any new intern might offer the CEO's daughter. I said nothing and walked past him. My heart, however, thundered like a war drum. How did he get in? I snapped, slamming a file onto my desk. The secretary flinched. I looked into it, Miss Langford," she stammered. "He was recommended by one of our shareholders. Miss Ava Monroe. Of course. The girl who still clung to her fantasy, who followed him like a loyal dog even after he'd been dragged out in cuffs. How many interns did she refer?" I asked. 3, she said. Including Damon. He passed the screening with high marks. His academic record from King's University is exceptional. I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling for a long, slow breath. So this was how he was going to play it. A new game. New mask. Same predator. Pull up his work schedule. I want daily reports. Everything he touches I want it on my desk by 6 p.m. The secretary nodded and fled the room. He's working so hard, just for you. The male lead arrives first, leaves last. He sleeps only 3 hours a night. That's what true devotion looks like. It was almost funny. In my past life I used to melt at these comments. They shaped every decision I made. Every hesitation I had about Julian, every moment of doubt, the comments were there to guide me, straight into Damon's arms. This time I was following the script too. But only long enough to rewrite the ending. Damon didn't approach me directly for days. He was too smart for that. Instead he lingered just enough. A greeting in the elevator. A fleeting glance during a lunch break. The way he'd stay late, alone in the office, as if quietly enduring the burden of love unspoken. He was rebuilding his stage, brick by brick, cue by cue. And the comments? They narrated his moves with Oscar-worthy drama. Look how he watches her from afar. He's punishing himself for what happened at the gala. Forgive him, heroine. He's trying so hard. Forgive him. Sure. Right after I stabbed myself with a hairpin. One night after hours I walked past his desk on my way out. He was there, hunched over, typing quickly, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He didn't hear me approach. "Still working?" I asked. He jumped slightly, startled. Then stood quickly, face lighting up like I was the sun he hadn't seen in years. "Miss Langford," he said. "I didn't realize you were still here." I glanced at his monitor. Charts. Numbers. A proposal draft for one of our sustainability partners. He was working. Actually working. Look at that. He's improving the company for you. The male lead is selfless. He never asks for anything. "Why haven't you left yet?" I asked, folding my arms. He smiled sheepishly. "I wanted to finish this draft before the weekend." I stepped closer, leaned against his desk, pretending to study the report. Out of the corner of my eye, I watched him. His gaze lingered a bit too long on my face. His Adam's apple bobbed. The comments surged again. "Heroine, he's trying not to look. He's dying to touch you but respects your boundaries. How can you resist such pure, restrained love?" I picked up a pen and twirled it between my fingers. "Damon," I said softly. His name hit the air like a match to gasoline. He looked up quickly. "Yes. I want to apologize," I said, meeting his gaze. His eyes widened slightly. "For?" he asked cautiously. "For the gala," I murmured. "I may have overreacted." He stared at me like I'd just handed him the keys to the universe. "No," he said quickly. "No, I should be the one apologizing. I didn't mean to frighten you. I only wanted to help. Everything that happened. I was scared." I cut in, my voice quiet, vulnerable. "But maybe I saw something that wasn't there." His shoulders relaxed. His jaw unclenched. The floating comments went wild. She's coming back to him. Heroine, you finally see his heart. This is true love, hard-earned. I smiled just a little. Then I dropped my voice into a whisper and added, but I still need to understand. Understand what? He asked. Why, I said slowly. Why every time I try to move forward you're already there waiting? His mouth opened, closed, then curved into a careful smile. Because, he said softly, I want to be where you are. That would have melted me last time. This time, I was just cataloging evidence. The next morning I called for my assistant. Find out how Damon got out of police custody, I said. And how exactly Ava Monroe arranged for his internship. She returned by afternoon with the file. I flipped through it. Bail. Posted by Ava. Placement. Ava's referral. Previous part-time gigs, including the banquet where we first met, also arranged by her. That meant only one thing. He'd been preparing this illusion long before I ever became part of it. Even his position as a waiter at that elite event had been no coincidence. I leaned back in my chair, twirling the pen between my fingers. So Ava had been his ladder. The one he stepped on. Just like me. But if Ava had also once been chosen, it raised a more dangerous question. How many people had Damon manipulated with those comments? And more importantly, could he use the system on multiple people at once? Only one way to find out. Set up a meeting with Ava Monroe, I told my assistant. But don't use my name. Ava Monroe walked into the cafe with a grace she didn't deserve. The kind of grace you only wear when you still believe the man you're sponsoring would never betray you. When you think you're the one exception, not just the next pawn. I sat by the window with a book in hand, the brim of my hat tilted just enough to shadow most of my face. We weren't meeting under my name. My assistant had scheduled it under the alias of a non-profit liaison looking for donors for rural school expansions. Fitting, really. That's how Ava had met Damon in the first place. Miss Ward, she asked, blinking at me. I looked up slowly and smiled. Miss Monroe. Thank you for coming. She sat down, tucking her white purse onto her lap, lips painted the soft pink of money and innocence. She'd even brought printed brochures with handwritten notes on them, probably things she thought would impress me. I didn't touch them. Instead, I leaned forward and said softly, let's not waste time. I'm not here about rural schools. She blinked. Pardon? I'm Sierra Langford. Her expression shifted, sharpened. What, why, how? Relax, I said, lifting my cup. If I wanted to humiliate you, I would have done it in front of the entire board of trustees. Not in a cafe on the outskirts of town. She didn't relax. But she didn't leave either. What do you want from me? She asked stiffly. To talk, I said. About Damon Reed. Her mouth tightened. He's already been released. There were no charges. Because you posted his bail and shut it down, I cut in. But we both know that's not the point. She flinched. Slightly. I took another sip. Tell me something, Ava. When did you first start seeing floating comments? She didn't speak. Didn't blink. Didn't move. But her entire body gave it away. The subtle shift in her posture, the sharpness in her breathing. Fear. You have seen them, I said softly. Haven't you? She stared at me, color draining from her face. I thought I was going crazy at first, she whispered. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my therapist. They were everywhere, hovering, glowing. Like little signs from fate. What did they say? She hesitated, then murmured, that Damon was my destiny. That I was the heroine. That if I supported him, loved him, protected him, he'd become something great. And he'd never leave me behind. I nodded slowly. That's exactly what they told me too. She blinked. You mean, you still see them? Every day. Her face twisted like a scab had just been ripped off an old wound. I leaned in a little closer. But I'm guessing you don't see them anymore, do you? No, she said slowly. They stopped, after that night at the gala. When he was arrested. Of course they did. He looked at me puzzled. The system, I explained. It can only target one person at a time. You were the last heroine. I'm the current one. He switched. Her mouth dropped open slightly, a whisper of horror leaking into her eyes. So they weren't real? No, Ava, I said softly but cruelly. They weren't fate. They were Damon. She gripped the edge of the table. He said I was imagining things. That he'd never seen them, but he believed me. Oh, he saw them all right. He made them. She trembled. I could see the cracks forming just like they had in me once. I gave him everything, she said, her voice thin. My inheritance. My connections. 6 years of my life. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? You think I'm stupid, she whispered. No, I said honestly. I think you were hypnotized. Just like I was. Silence sat heavy between us for a long moment. Then I stood and left her a card. If you ever find the courage to fight back, I said, you know how to reach me. Later that night I sat on my apartment balcony, staring at the floating comments hovering in the dark like glowing insects. Heroine, aren't you curious what Damon's doing right now? He's probably watching the stars thinking of you. Give him another chance. Don't push him away. I rolled my eyes. They were relentless. Crafted so carefully, so sweetly like a poisoned dessert. I closed my eyes and imagined Damon somewhere in his apartment, sitting alone, watching the comments flood my airspace like a performance light show. He was probably smiling. Probably imagining that I'd fallen for it all over again. That I was still being pulled toward him. Good. Let him believe it. The next morning, Damon showed up at the elevator the same time as me. On purpose, of course. His shirt collar was open just enough to show a sliver of neck. He smelled faintly of sandalwood and desperation. Miss Langford, he said with a smile that was 30% guilt, 70% charm. Damon. I didn't smile, but I didn't look away either. He shifted slightly. I was wondering if you, maybe wanted to grab coffee sometime? Outside of work. The comments fluttered with excitement. Heroines say yes. This is the moment your love story restarts. He's reaching out. Don't leave him hanging. I tilted my head like I was actually considering it, then gave him the faintest nod. Tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. My schedule's packed after that. His eyes lit up. I'll be there. Of course you will, I thought. He always was. Always when it counted. Always when the scene needed him. But this time he wasn't writing the script. I was. Later that afternoon Ava texted me. Can we talk again? I have something I need to tell you. I met her that evening in the Langford greenhouse, a secluded part of the estate where we used to host spring donor galas. Now it was silent, filled only with climbing roses and memories that no longer made me ache. Ava was pacing when I arrived. Her hair was down this time, no makeup, no jewelry. Just a simple blouse and gilt. I've been thinking, she said. About everything. The comments. The patterns. How he got into every room he shouldn't have. I said nothing. Just waited. She looked at me, eyes hardening. He's still using the system on you. Yes. And he doesn't know we talked. No. He swallowed. Then we have a chance. I raised an eyebrow. To do what? To break him, she said. From the inside. I want you to meet someone special, I said, threading my fingers through Damon's arm. His eyes gleamed, like he couldn't believe his plan had worked so well. That after everything I was bringing him into my circle. My real one. His chest puffed slightly. His steps were lighter. The comments fluttered like confetti. Heroine, you're finally claiming your man. He's the future, Sierra. Let him in. This is your story's turning point. Love always wins. Please. He didn't know it yet, but he was walking straight into his own funeral. I had chosen the location carefully. One of Langford Corp's private lounges on the 31st floor, booked in my name but under the guise of a donor appreciation lunch. We were meeting my closest friend. He thought it was going to be someone important. Someone influential. Someone he could impress. He wasn't wrong. I just never said it would be someone who already knew all of his lies. As we stepped into the private room, I leaned toward his ear and whispered, "Oh, and the funny thing is, you already know her." His body stiffened slightly. But it was too late. He looked up, and there she was. Ava Monroe in a champagne-colored silk blouse, hair curled just enough to look soft but not forgiving. She stood beside the long table, a glass of wine in hand, though I knew she hadn't taken a single sip. Damon stopped mid-step. His pupils contracted. His hand on my arm slackened. "Ava," he said, voice barely above a whisper. The wine glass in Ava's hand slipped through her fingers and shattered on the floor. Her gaze locked on him, furious and trembling. "You two have been in contact this whole time?" he asked, turning to me with that same old wounded look he used to milk sympathy. I smiled. "We met at a non-profit luncheon. She's been hearing me gush about my boyfriend for weeks now. I figured it was time you two were properly introduced." I said it sweetly, tilting my head just so, the perfect picture of oblivious trust. His hand was damp in mine. "Heroine, you've done it. Damon has finally been accepted into your world. This is your happy ending. A peaceful future awaits." The floating comments didn't know what was coming either. Damon's gaze flicked between us, calculating, scrambling to determine how much he'd already lost. "Nice to see you again, Ava," he said stiffly. Ava didn't respond. Her nails were digging into her palm. "I'll give you two a moment to catch up," I said cheerfully. "I'll be outside." I closed the door behind me. And waited. 23 minutes passed. That's how long it took in my past life before Ava left in tears, and never contacted me again. This time I stayed close enough to hear through the small receiver Ava had tucked under her collar. The conversation was exactly as we suspected. "Ava," Damon said, "whatever you think you know, you're wrong. I never lied to you. Sierra's just confused. You can't believe everything she says." Ava laughed coldly. "You used to say I was the heroine too. Remember?" There was a pause. Then his voice dropped into that carefully modulated regret. "I made mistakes. But I never stopped caring about you. I didn't know how to handle everything." "How convenient," she snapped. "Every time someone doubts you, the comments jump in and defend you. Funny how they always seem to say exactly what you need them to." "I don't control the comments," he said smoothly. "They're a gift. A sign." I bit back a smile outside the door. A gift? He really still thought he could sell that line. Inside, Ava's voice dropped. "You didn't expect her to bring me, did you?" Silence. "No," Damon admitted. "She played me." "And you're scared," Ava added. "Because now the story isn't yours anymore." When Damon exited the lounge, he looked calm. Too calm. He gave me a sheepish smile. "Sorry about that. Ava's still emotional." I nodded. "Of course. It's hard to let go." He reached for my hand and squeezed it gently. "Heroine, this is his way of reassuring you. He's choosing you over the past. This is real now. Trust him." God, he was so good at performing for the comments. I pretended to soften, like his touch was soothing the doubt. "Did she say anything strange?" "Nothing important," he said quickly. "She's just confused." "Right," I murmured. "She said something odd, actually. About floating comments. That she used to see them too." His smile faltered. For a millisecond. "She said that?" he asked, voice careful. I nodded, watching him. She seemed sure of it. He recovered fast. "She must have been hallucinating. It's not something that just passes around like a cold." "But I see them," I said gently. "So it's not impossible, right?" His eyes sharpened. "But you still see them, right?" he asked, voice just a little too eager. "Right now." I smiled. "Of course. They're always there." That seemed to relax him. Which told me everything I needed to know. He couldn't see what I saw. He didn't know what the comments were showing me. He didn't even know when I was pretending. And that meant he was blind. That night I stood in my room with my phone recording, talking to Ava on speaker. "I needed to be sure," I said. "The floating comment system isn't just manipulative. It's directional. Personalized. And Damon can't see what his target sees. Which is why he keeps testing you," Ava replied. "And why he's desperate to know if you still see them. He's scared I might be waking up." And he's right. I turned to face my mirror. The comments floated behind my reflection like fake stars. "He's giving you his best years. He's working so hard just to be worthy of you. Don't abandon him now. He's all in." I reached up and swiped my hand through one of them. It dissolved in a ripple of light. "Let's start giving him a performance," I said. "If he wants a heroine, let's give him the one who breaks him." The next morning my desk had a flower. A single tulip. White. Freshly cut. Still damp with morning dew. It was placed beside a note in Damon's handwriting. "I saw you were tired yesterday. Thought you could use something soft." A soft laugh escaped my lips. He notices everything about you. Heroine, you found someone who truly cares. Isn't this what love is? I picked up the tulip, twirled it between my fingers and whispered just loud enough for the system to hear. Let the games begin. Damon invited me to his apartment 3 days after I forgave him. He said he wanted to cook for me. Said he was learning my favorite dessert. Said he wanted to show me who he really was. I smiled and said yes. He had no idea I'd already been there. I'd been in that apartment days ago, when he was out. A maintenance request opened the door and my discreet tech team installed 2 hidden cameras. One behind a bookshelf. One in the smoke detector. If he was going to slip, it would be here. The evening began like any romantic cliché. A clean, modern apartment with diffused lighting, music humming softly in the background. A white cake box from my favorite bakery sat on the counter. 2 hours in line, Damon said, setting it down proudly. You said you liked the rose honey flavor, right? I gave a bashful smile. You remembered. Heroine, this is love. He listens. He learns. Say yes already. The comments still buzzed sweetly around my head, trying to paint a picture of tenderness, of fate. But they were liars. And I was done listening. We sat on the couch. Damon poured tea like some perfectly rehearsed domestic boyfriend. His eyes searched mine, careful but curious. Sierra, he said quietly, you've been different lately. Oh. He tilted his head, studying me. You seem distracted. Like something's bothering you. I didn't blink. I've been seeing new comments. His hand paused mid-pour. New. I nodded. Strange ones. Red. He stilled. His pupils dilated slightly. Red. I nodded again, looking away as if uncertain. They're not like the usual ones. They don't encourage me to trust you. In fact, they say things like... I let my voice tremble just a little. Like, you killed Ava. He froze completely. I could almost hear his brain recalibrating. That's ridiculous, he said with a shaky laugh. You know she's fine. I haven't seen her in days, I whispered. She stopped answering my calls. He stood quickly, pacing a little. Sierra, look at me. You're overthinking. It's just stress. The heroine is cracking. She's too sensitive. The male lead is trying his best. He walked back toward me and reached out to touch my face. I jerked away. I'm scared, I whispered, letting my voice break. Because the comments are saying, they're saying you tampered with her car. That did it. His face blanched. Not out of guilt but fear. The exact fear I'd been waiting for. He tried to recover. That's insane. These red comments. Maybe you're hallucinating. Maybe something's wrong with the system. He said it so naturally as if it were just a bug in some app. So you admit it, I said, voice cold now. There is a system. He looked at me, truly looked, and in that moment, Damon realized the heroine he'd been narrating wasn't dancing anymore. She grabbed the mic. The next day, Ava was killed in a car crash. The news report was fake, of course, planted through our internal press team under a carefully cloaked alias. Just like in my past life, it claimed she'd lost control on the winding cliffs outside town. Her brakes failed. Her car flipped. There was a photo. Blurred. A wreckage. And a name. Ava Monroe. Dead at 26. Damon saw the article within hours. And spiraled. He texted me at 2:07 a.m. I need to talk to you. Please. Urgent. I didn't respond. By sunrise, a knock echoed against my office door. He stood there, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking slightly. I didn't do it, he said the second I opened the door. Didn't do what? His voice cracked. You know what I'm talking about. I stepped aside and let him in. The comments were spinning. He's vulnerable. Comfort him. Heroine, he's broken because of love. But I just stood there. Unmoved. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. I swear to you, Sierra. I didn't touch her car. I didn't even see her this week. The last time we spoke was that lunch. You mean the one where she accused you of manipulating both of us? I said sharply. He flinched. I'm not that person anymore, he muttered. You're right, I replied. You're worse. He turned toward me slowly, something flickering behind his eyes. You're setting me up. I smiled. Why would I do that? He narrowed his eyes and for a second the mask slipped, revealing the predator underneath. His voice dropped. You know about the system. You've known for a while. I tilted my head. It's hard not to notice when strangers start encouraging me to sleep with the guy who tried to assault me. Heroin, that wasn't real. You imagined it. He was just helping you. Let go of the past. I didn't even bother pretending anymore. You're pathetic, I said. Fabricating a reality where I fall for you because of floating encouragement. You think that's love. His hands balled into fists. You don't understand. I had nothing. No family. No money. People like you walk through life with everything. I needed a system just to stand beside you. You mean you used it to make me abandon the people I loved? My fiancé. My family. My judgment. He stepped closer. I loved you. You controlled me. The silence snapped like a wire. You pushed Ava off the cliff in my last life, I said calmly. He jolted. His jaw dropped. What did you just say? I didn't flinch. That's right. Last life. I remember it all. His expression cracked, fully this time. And then he snarled, that's not possible. But the blood-red comments? I whispered. They're saying the same thing. That you killed her. That you planned to kill me next. His breathing hitched. You're lying. I leaned closer. No, Damon. I'm acting. His face twisted, mouth open, and then his hand shot out, grabbing me by the throat. I made you, he hissed. I gave you everything. You think you're strong now? Let's see how strong you are without air. I gasped, claws digging at his wrist. He pushed me backward. My vision blurred. The comments flickered. Host compromised. System error. Mission failure. The door slammed open. Police stormed in. Ava Monroe walked in behind them. Alive. Unbroken. And smiling. Surprise, she said coldly. Miss me. Damon released me instantly and stumbled backward. You're dead. I saw the report. Fake, I rasped, massaging my throat. Just like your love. Officers tackled him to the ground. He thrashed wildly, screaming. You can't do this. I'm the male lead. I was going to win. I had everything. You had a script, I said, voice ice. Now it's been cancelled. Later that day, when the system finally disconnected from Damon's neural waves, a final mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Host privileges revoked. Comment system unbound. Emotional manipulation terminated. And just like that, the air was silent. No glowing lies. No hero worship. Just reality. The courtroom was cold. Not just in temperature but in tone. The kind of cold that sits in the marrow of your bones and reminds you, this is real. No more illusions. No more floating words to guide you, seduce you, lie to you. Just truth. And consequence. Damon Reed sat in the defendant's box wearing a charcoal suit that tried too hard to feign dignity. His hair was styled, his tie knotted perfectly, but he looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Like someone had taken the golden boy and drained the color out of his frame. Still, his eyes searched for me as soon as I walked in. They locked onto mine. And I stared back. Not with hate, not with fear, but with quiet, merciless clarity. Heroine, you've come to see his fall. He's broken because he loved you too much. Forgive him. Just once. The comments were still flickering. Somehow. Even now. I had a sick feeling he was still clinging to the system like it was his lifeline. Like he thought this was just another climactic third act and he'd win me back with a speech. I sat down in the front row next to Ava Monroe, who had come in a black blazer and no makeup. She stared straight ahead, expression carved from stone. The prosecution began to present evidence. First, the footage of Damon tampering with Ava's car, captured by the 360-degree surveillance system Ava and I had hidden in her garage weeks ago. Then, audio recordings of the phone call Damon placed, instructing Ava to meet him at the summit, where the surprise would be waiting. And finally, the full video of Damon grabbing me in his apartment, confessing to everything, believing in that moment that he'd already won. The courtroom held its breath. Even the floating comments paused briefly. Like the system didn't know what to say when the lies were recorded from every angle. The judge's gavel tapped twice. Mr. Reed, the judge said, do you wish to make a statement before sentencing? Damon stood. His lawyer leaned toward him, whispering something urgent, but he shrugged him off. He turned slowly to face me. And smiled. Sierra, he said, voice smooth, almost gentle. You came. I said nothing. I thought you might, he continued. I mean, we shared something, didn't we? He still loves you. This is his final plea. The male lead never gives up. I could feel it, his desperation. It clung to the air like perfume. I know I made mistakes, he said, voice cracking slightly for effect. But I did everything for love. He took a shaky breath. The cake, the internship, the nights I stayed late at Langford just hoping you'd walk past my desk. You remember, don't you? I didn't blink. Forgive him. Just once. That's all he wants. Isn't redemption what stories are made of? He bled for you. I would have done anything for you, he whispered. And I still would. The courtroom was still. Silent. But the comments were still clinging. Like ghosts that didn't realize they were dead. I just wanted to be worthy of you, Damon finished, eyes glassy. That's not a crime. Then he turned toward the judge and lowered his head. The judge tapped the gavel again. The court has reviewed the overwhelming evidence, including your confession, your actions, and your recorded manipulation of victims using unauthorized neurotechnology. Damon stiffened. The sentence is as follows: 20 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 10. The gavel came down like thunder. Heroine, say something. Stop this. This can't be the ending. He still loves you. Isn't that worth something? And then, the shift. A mechanical voice, one I hadn't heard since the day Ava and I began fighting back, echoed in my mind. System unbound. Host privileges revoked. Comment manipulation terminated. The floating words blinked, flickered, then vanished like smoke caught in sunlight. And for the first time since I woke up in this second life, the air around me was clean. No noise. No narratives. No seduction. Just truth. Damon turned his head toward me again, lips parting, confused. Sierra, he croaked. But I was already standing. Not to speak to him. Just to leave. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters surged. But I said nothing. I didn't need to. Everything that had to be said had already been captured. By video, by confession, by the ruins of a system that Damon had weaponized to manipulate affection. Ava stood beside me as we walked toward the car. He really thought he could narrate his way out of prison, she muttered. I gave a dry laugh. He always did confuse performance with reality. She glanced sideways at me. How do you feel? I considered the question. Then said, free. That night I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine in silence. Not a single floating comment had returned. The stars looked sharper. The air smelled like rain. The world was no longer telling me what to feel. No longer whispering what to forgive. I didn't need a story to follow. I was finally living one of my own. Freedom didn't come with fanfare. There was no grand music, no scrolling credits. Just silence. Real, unfiltered silence. It was the first thing I noticed the morning after Damon Reed was sentenced. No synthetic voices. No suggestions. No glowing words pushing me toward someone else's idea of happiness. The system was gone. And for the first time in a long, long time, I could breathe. Ava and I sat at her rooftop garden 2 weeks later, sharing matcha tea and watching the city glitter below us. She'd moved back into her old penthouse, the one she once abandoned when she thought disappearing would keep her safe from Damon. She no longer had to hide. Neither did I. Do you think it's really over? She asked, plucking a dying leaf from one of the potted hydrangeas. It is, I said. She looked skeptical. You sure? She pressed. You don't think there's some backdoor system code still running? Another sponsor? Another target? I shook my head. The code was Damon's. Ava, he was the last host. The moment he was disconnected, the servers shut down. You saw the court order. She nodded slowly. But it's not just about the system, she said softly. It's about the voices. You know what I mean. I did. We weren't just manipulated by a digital interface. We were conditioned to believe love should feel like 1,000 people clapping for the same man. That validation made him real. That our choices were wrong unless echoed back by a crowd of fake encouragement. That love had to be loud to be real. Now with all that gone, the silence was terrifying. But I was learning to love it. In the weeks following the trial, I returned to Langford Corp. Not as the dutiful daughter trying to prove herself, but as the woman who had already survived the worst and didn't need anyone's approval to lead. My father had been watching quietly through everything. When I walked into the executive board meeting that Monday morning, he stood and handed me his seat. "I've waited 20 years to name a successor," he said. "I just didn't know she'd be born twice to get here." The room fell into stunned silence. I took the seat without smiling. There was nothing to celebrate. Only work to do. Damon tried to contact me. Twice. Through his lawyer, through letters, through mutual acquaintances. He said the same things every manipulator says after the game ends. I didn't know what I was doing. "I loved you. Can't we talk just once?" I didn't respond. And not out of spite. Just disinterest. The truth was, I no longer felt anything for him. Not rage. Not grief. Not even satisfaction. He wasn't the villain in my story anymore. He was a paragraph I'd already read. A glitch in a system I'd already debugged. The final time Ava and I met for lunch, she handed me something small. It was a bracelet. Handmade. Leather with a single silver charm in the shape of a mute icon. The kind you'd see on a phone screen when audio is turned off. "No more voices," she said simply. I smiled. "Only our own." We clinked our glasses. No speeches. No declarations. Just women reclaiming their autonomy. That night I stood in front of my mirror. No filters. No enhancements. No script. I looked at my reflection and said the truth out loud. Not for anyone to hear, not to post, not for applause. Just for me. "I was played," I said. "I was tricked into thinking love was something to be earned through sacrifice and blindness." I touched the side of my neck where Damon once held me by the throat. Where fear used to live. Never again. I looked myself in the eyes. And I don't need an audience to matter. I started writing again. Not code. Not plans. Just words. Essays. Short stories. Honest, messy, sometimes angry, sometimes forgiving truths about what it means to have your emotions hijacked, and still come out on the other side choosing peace. Ava started an NGO for psychological abuse survivors. Women who'd been controlled not by fists, but by gaslighting and invisible systems. The world called it a silent epidemic. He called it a revolution. As for me, I chose to remain unnamed in the press. The woman who brought down Damon Reed became a legend. But Sierra Langford? He just wanted a garden. I built one. In the countryside. A little greenhouse beside a stone cottage. Flowers I couldn't pronounce, vegetables I forgot to water, and a cat I didn't adopt. She just refused to leave. There were no glowing comments when I woke up. No system analyzing my heart rate. No notifications telling me who to trust. Just wind. And birds. And a very judgmental cat. Sometimes, Ava. And once or twice, Julian. Yes, even Julian Crane. He visited once, awkward in his tailored suit and city shoes. He apologized. Really apologized. He'd been used to. But I wasn't interested in rewriting anything with him. I forgave him silently. Poured him a cup of tea. Let him leave. No more chapters with people who closed their eyes when I needed them to see. One afternoon I stood in my garden, sun on my face, mud under my nails, and realized something strange. I hadn't heard a comment in months. No whispers. No nudges. No narratives. Just life. Unscripted. Uncontrolled. And beautifully mine. The end.